And good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the December 14th, 2023 regular agenda session of the Cumberland County Board of Commissioners. I will call on Vice Chairwoman Tony Stewart to do our invocation and pledge.
God, we thank you for this day. We thank you, God, for the opportunity to come and to prepare ourselves to serve the citizens of Cumberland County. We pray for each and every citizen. We pray for those who are dealing with loss, who are grieving this holiday season. God, we pray for our unsheltered citizens, and we pray, God, that we will all do what it is that you have called us to do so that we can work for the betterment of our entire community. We thank you and we honor you. In Jesus' name.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I just get chills all up and down my body.
Are you talking about when I start to speak? When I start to speak? I'm sorry.
Well, I do that when you do that too, but that's all. That's why I don't recognize you way over there. What's your name over there? You find the two over there, y'all stay over there. Wave, just wave.
Call me Commissioner Council.
That was not nice.
That was not nice.
That was not
Go ahead and hit my hand. You know how to do it. All right.
I said nice things about him.
You did. Thank you. I appreciate that.
The top two board persons I've ever chaired have been.
Mr. Manager, are there any changes to the agenda?
No, Mr. Chairman, there are no changes to the agenda.
If I can get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I'll give a second. It's been moved and second. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you all. That will take us to our presentations, which is our audit. Mr. Manager.
Yes, the first item presentation is audit of the fiscal year results. Vicki Evans, Finance Director, along with April Adams, CPA, with Sherry Becker, will present this item.
What?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Again, April Adams from Cherry Becker. She's going to present the audit results, and then I'm going to present some fund financial results.
Welcome.
Thank you.
We're just glad to see an auditor, so we're good.
Well, I'm glad to be here to give you guys a result. An excellent audit, and I'm, like I said, glad to be here to give the results. All right, so the first thing I'd like to cover is just to remind you that we are your external auditors, and with that, that means that we work for you, the board. You guys hire us and contract with us, even though we spend most of our time working with the folks inside the county to achieve the audit. We are reporting to you. I am April Adams. I'm the audit engagement partner. What that means is that I set the plan for the audit, and can you hear me?
Yeah, I just want to tell them we're not related, so just in case. Go right ahead. Because I won't think I got conflict of interest here.
Well, I'll cover that, so don't worry. All right, so I am the engagement partner. I do sign on behalf of the firm and take responsibility for the firm, the audit opinion. Our audit is required by our firm to be reviewed, every audit that we do, reviewed by another quality reviewer. And so Scott Anderson served that purpose for your audit. Linda Suggs returned as the senior manager. She's the one that works with me to set the audit plan, and then she executes it using various audit staff and seniors to make that happen. So that's the audit team. What I'd like to cover with you this afternoon are first and foremost the results of the audit and the single audit. Single audit is where the county expends the federal and state dollars, and this is the reporting of our audit of those programs. I just want to talk briefly about internal controls and how that relates to our audit and how we report on those. Corrected and uncorrected misstatements, that's another way of saying journal entries. So we are required to report to you any journal entries identified during the audit. And then I have a whole bunch of required communications that the audit standards require us to communicate to you as the board as a part of our audit. So we'll fly through those this afternoon. And then reporting changes are just things where new standards have been implemented, and just kind of highlighting those and how they may affect future audits and financial reporting. All right, so the results of the financial statement audit. We have completed our audit. We did date it December 1st, and we have issued an unmodified opinion on those financial statements. Unmodified opinion, in other words, is a clean opinion. That is the best results that you can get. That is the highest level of assurance that we can give you as your audit firm, that your financial statements are free from material misstatement. That's a lot of words. Basically what we're saying is that we don't come in and test every single transaction. We look specifically for where your financial statements are most likely to be misstated and at higher risk for that, and we focus our procedures in on there to make sure that they are correct.
So I can keep my finances straight.
All right, so when it comes to the single audit, we did have quite a few major programs to test during the year. Major programs are programs where we've actually gone in and tested in accordance with the 14 compliance requirements, the ones that are direct and material, meaning that if, compliance didn't take place with those programs, that the administration of them would be a problem. All right, so I've just listed them here, which programs that we did test those compliance requirements. The county receives quite a few other programs that we haven't tested this year. A lot of them tend to happen on a 3-year rotation. Some of them happen every year. For example, Medicaid, we end up testing every single year just because of the risk related to that. All right, so the results of the single audit, I am happy to report that we did issue unmodified opinions related to those compliance opinions as well. So again, the highest results that you can get, otherwise known as a clean opinion. We did have one single audit finding, so that didn't affect our opinion on it, but it's something that we found in our testing that we're required to report to you. We are labeling it a non-material non-compliance over eligibility specific to the state foster care benefits program. When the county determines eligibility for any of the foster care or adoption participants or children, they are at the time of intake required to assess their eligibility, and based on that, it depends on which funding bucket their payments are paid from. In this scenario, this one of the 40 cases that we looked at that had an issue, they were correctly determined eligible. It just wasn't, it was correctly determined at that time to be a state foster care eligible participant. However, the next day, their situation changed, which then triggered them to be eligible for federal funding. And the change just never got made in the records. So the county's in process of recouping those dollars and paying back the state and getting money from the federal funding source. Just want to look back to last year. You had 2 findings related to the ERAP program. We are required in the next year's audit to look at how those findings were corrected, and if they were, and if not, we would report that they were not corrected. But in this case, both of those findings related to ERAP have been resolved and corrected. All right, so as far as internal controls go, we don't opine on your internal controls during the audit. We are required to do a lot of work for internal controls. And then from there, we're required to report if we found any deficiencies in what we looked at. And so what we do is we determine the significant transaction cycles. That means that we're looking for how does the county receive cash, how does the county disperse cash, how does the county make their payroll, and then finally, how does the county get the information from the financial reporting software, the accounting system, and create the book you have in front of you, the financial statements. And so we're looking at the controls around that. From those initial looks at those policies and procedures, we decide if we actually want to test any of those controls for effectiveness and use that as a part of our assurance on the financial statement audit. We do that for cash disbursements and payroll, so we're testing a larger sample of the controls in those 2 areas and then relying upon that. All right, so what we are required to report, because we don't opine on, is if we encounter any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in what we did review. I am happy to report we didn't report any material weaknesses, but we did report 1 significant deficiency. And I'll cover that on the next slide. The significant deficiency we've given is specific to one schedule that's included within your financial statements. It's called the Schedule of Expenditures of Federal and State Awards. So this is the schedule that we use to determine and which audits or which programs we're going to audit during the year, and this is also the schedule that's used and sent to the federal government reporting all the federal expenditures that were incurred during the year for your programs. We receive this schedule in multiple interims throughout the audit, as we need something to base off to get our audit started, and then it's then given us a modified schedule, typically after the confirmation reports are received by the state, to kind of true up mostly the DSS information. In the current year, we realized that there were programs that, more specifically, a program that wasn't there that should have been, and so in this case, we felt like we were given a statement that wasn't fully correct, resulting in this deficiency.
So it's just a program that didn't do anything with money, it was just on the schedule of the number of programs.
That's right, it's in the system, everything's been accounted for correctly, it just didn't show up on the schedule that we used to base that. And since we opine on the schedule, it's important for that schedule to be given to us correctly.
Gotcha.
But there's been a system put in place immediately after we identified the issue that was already been through this year, and will be continued to use in the future. All right, corrected and incorrect misstatements, like I mentioned, these are journal entries. So from the time that we are provided a trial balance from the county as a part of our audit, we're on the hook to report to you any material adjustments or any adjustments, honestly, that are above trivial amounts. We're required to report those to you. We didn't have any during our audit, so we didn't identify any, and the county didn't give us any additional entries. And so what that means is that you guys have got good processes in place to capture all the financial activity during the year and be able to give us a trial balance to work from. All right, the next couple slides talk about the qualitative aspects of accounting practices. I don't want you to feel like you're going to school, but these are just things that we're required to highlight to you that may have happened during the year, or things that we looked at. First one would be any changes to accounting policies during the year. Typically, this happens when you're implementing a new standard of accounting. In the current year, the county adopted GASB 96. This is your subscription-based information technology arrangements. I didn't know what that meant when they first came out with this, but that means software licenses. So anytime the county is licensing the right to use software, we're going to have to evaluate those arrangements for whether they are now a right to use asset and also a liability of the county. And so the finance office worked with IT and everyone else trying to figure out what those agreements were, evaluated them, and then basically added an asset and a liability, a corresponding liability. Next topic is related party transactions. So we are, as your auditors, required to look for those during the audit, inquire about them, and then once identified, we're required to make sure that they're accounted for correctly. And so we do that for significant ones. We didn't have any identified during this audit to look at specifically. Similar is significant unusual transactions. As you can imagine, if the county had a significant unusual transaction, it might be something they're not used to accounting for. Therefore, you would want us to make sure that that was accounted for correctly. We didn't identify any significant unusual transactions this year. Estimates. There are significant estimates that exist within your financial statements. They are management's best estimate of what those amounts represent at June 30th, 2023. I've listed them here for you. The biggest ones to point out that are quite volatile in what's recorded there year to year are your estimates for your pension liabilities for your retirees, as well as your other post-employment health benefits, which is basically health insurance for your retirees. Financial statement disclosures. So this is just me. If I felt like you had disclosures that were difficult to understand or sensitive, or maybe not neutral, then I would point those out to you for you to go back and read within those financial statements with that lens on, that maybe they're difficult to understand. But I do feel like you could pick up that giant book in front of you and read through it and follow along fairly easily. All right, here's my part, independence. So we are your independent external auditors. We're required to evaluate our independence at the start and throughout the engagement, as we maybe might add what we call non-attest procedures. That means we may be doing things that are in addition to the audit, such as preparing your financial statements or preparing the data collection form, which is where the county reports to the federal government the expenditures and the results of the single audit on the federal side. And so we do those two things. We do feel like we are able to maintain our independence, first because on the financial statement side, we used a whole separate team to create those. We don't make any management decisions related to that, neither do they. And also, we feel like your financial team is able to take responsibilities. They have the skills, knowledge, and expertise to do their own statements. It's just was more effective resource-wise to use us this year. So that's how we're able to maintain our independence. All right, additional required communications. So we didn't have any difficulties with management during the audit. We didn't have any disagreements with management during the audit. We didn't consult with any other auditors for any other specialties or expertise on anything. This last purple box is important to me because our audit is only as good as the information we're provided to audit. And so when we're conducting our audit, we keep a list of all the things that management has represented to us that we are relying upon in order to give our opinion, and then we make them sign that document before we're able to issue the audit so that everyone's full and clear aware of what we relied upon to give our opinion. We're not aware that management consulted any other auditors or accountants for second opinions on anything. We don't have any other findings or other issues that we feel like we need to bring to your attention. Again, with the purple box, this one's kind of important. Our audit is not designed to look for fraud or illegal acts. We are, though, however, if we come across them during our audit, required to report them to you. And we didn't find any suspicions or instances of fraud or illegal acts in anything that we looked at. And then lastly, going concern, audit standards require us to evaluate, will the county likely be here a year from now in good operating financial condition, and we do think that is the case. And that goes from year to year of the report date. So we do think you'll be here in December of next year. All right, the next two slides kind of talk about our opinion. I guess I didn't hint for the schedule of awards. So there are different sections of those financial statements in front of you. Our audit opinion covers directly the basic financial statements and the footnotes, and you can tell what is what when you look at the table of contents. That is what our opinion is on, is those two key things. We also issue what we call an in relation to opinion on the supplementary information. Those are the individual fund statements that you find behind the footnotes. And so we're basically saying we give an opinion on that because we've ticked and tied that to what we issued our opinion on. The required supplementary information, that is your MD&A, your management discussion and analysis, and the required supplementary information. This is the 10-year data related to your pension plans and your OPEB that are directly behind the notes. We don't opine on those at all, but we do review them to make sure that they don't contradict anything that was a requirement of us to report those that are indicators of concern to them. There are two of those in the current year for the county. One is that the audit was not submitted within 5 months from fiscal year. 5 months from fiscal year is December 1st. We were able to date the audit December 1st, but we weren't able to submit to them until December 7th. So you were 7 days late in that submittal. Our team plays a part in that 7 days. We were doing everything we could, and we just weren't able to make it happen. But there's always next year, right? And then lastly was the significant deficiency on the CFSA. And so what this triggers is that a need for you guys as the board to submit to them basically a remediation plan of what you plan to do to address these two indicators to prevent them from the future. And so that's due within 60 days, I guess, of today. And so I'm sure the management team will be putting that together for you guys to sign and submit. I did list some other things that they look at that were positive for you guys. They look for a certain amount of fund balance in your general fund. You were able to achieve that threshold for them. Making sure that the budgeted tax levy for the general fund has less than 3% uncollected. You guys have a very high collection rate. The whole state does, so that's not it's hard to find someone that has not a good collection rate. You have an effective pre-audit process related to prevent budget violations. Your debt service payments are on time, and you have compliance with any debt covenants, and then that you didn't have any statutory violations within the audit report. All All right, so upcoming financial reporting changes. This is basically new accounting standards that the county will have to implement in the future. The only one I'm going to highlight here is the compensated absences. Thank goodness this doesn't have to be implemented next year. It's not till 2025. This will play into being another estimate. This is, you have compensated absences. This is where the vacation's already recorded. What you don't have recorded is any sick leave. And the reason for that is the prior accounting standard did not require the county to report a liability for anything that might be paid out in cash. As you can imagine, the sick leave, if someone were to leave, doesn't get paid out. But now it's asking the county to consider what would be paid out in sick leave and record that. And so a lot of times in local government, the sick leave becomes service credit for the pension. And so we are going to have to take a look at how much of that is likely to be that versus how much is actually likely to be taken. And so there'll be some historical information we're going to have to take a look at and figure out how to record. We got 2 years. And that's all I have. I'll be glad to take any questions.
Commissioner Fairclough.
When did the name of this report change?
2 years ago.
Was it 2 years ago?
2 or 3 years ago. Apparently, the acronym previous to that was offensive to some people in South Africa.
Was what?
Offensive.
Yes,
It was offensive.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's a racial slur in the country of South Africa.
Jesus.
So we just flipped the letters around.
Okay, I didn't know that. I'm not asking to be smart. Okay, so I've been calling it CAFR for 35 years.
Yeah,
What
you
do I
shouldn't
call
say
it?
that anymore.
What do I say now?
ACFR.
What?
ACFR.
Remember that?
I'm on the count.
It used to be,
I know not to say the other word,
it used to
though.
be a CAFR, now it's a,
Yeah, it's an annual comprehensive financial report.
I see
Oh,
that.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I see that, but it's not CAFR anymore, it's
I
ACFR.
got you.
Okay.
Commissioner Keith. Yeah.
I've got a couple questions really quick. First of all, if there was ever a year where you could justify a delay, it would probably be this past year. I noticed that you guys audited the CARES Act and ARP, and some of that was part of your... How in the world do you do that? Because we're still getting changes now of what is valid in ARP, right? They changed a couple times, what we can spend money on?
As far as the final rule.
Yeah, they had another final rule like 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I think it was the fourth or fifth final rule.
Yeah, I mean, they allow whatever was in play at the time.
Rolling Stones farewell tour.
Whatever's in play.
Whatever's in play at time with the rule at that time is allowable. Honestly, most of the money that was spent for the county is what they call revenue replacement. So basically, this has to be a valid governmental.
Well, you segued right into my second question. We had a 20% reduction in salary. Was that because of that salaries were replaced by CARES Act money and that, or is it in a different place?
It was not because of that, but
Well, I'm just going by, I'm sorry. It was in one particular department. It was in one particular department that they had a 20% decrease. But I do know that we used in ARP and CARES Act money, we supplemented some of the people that were in there. So, I mean, isn't ARP and CARES kind of putting everything difficult to audit because it's coming out of different places?
so the CARES money had to be spent by a certain date, which I think was the end of 2021.
Yeah.
So that didn't play into this audit at all. There was, I don't think that the timing of it ever overlapped necessarily. I think there was a lot of talk about the ARPA money coming when the CARES money was still here, but I don't think it actually, all the CARES money was gone before the ARPA started.
Okay. It certainly skews numbers, though, when you look at history.
That's right.
And so it's hard to see what's coming next. All right. So why again was it delayed?
There's a multitude of reasons. For one, I think the schedule to start, the schedule of expenditures, the finance, you want to talk?
So the finance department had multiple staffing changes right as the audit started. We had 2 people who relocated and 1 person who retired about a month into getting the audit complete. And so we went from having 8 staff to 5. And so the work involved in getting it completed doubled for some of us. And so it took more time.
Is there a financial penalty?
No.
Okay.
But there is an agenda item after this one for the amendment, which the LGC requires because it was late.
And we also had to wait on one of the component units to finish up their audit also. So that,
Commissioner Booth.
Thank you, sir. Kind of like the same issue, after 2 weeks go by, we didn't hear anything. A month goes by, we didn't hear any concerns. 2 months, 3 months, a half a year goes by, we still didn't hear it until it's on today's agenda. I mean, that's the first time we hear about it. And we had an emergency meeting because some asphalt sunk into the parking lot at the library that still hasn't been filled in from 4 years ago. And we called an emergency meeting of the board because we needed to be brought up to speed on that. Is there nothing in place until LGC starts spanking us? I mean, isn't there something you could have said, oh, we need a meeting on this and I need to get some emergency money? Because I had one CPA that's semi-retiring and called down here to try to find out if there's a job or contract work was told. None was necessary. Nothing was needed. And this is a CPA of 40-plus years experience was told, no, we don't need anybody that does good with numbers. And so now we're hearing that everybody basically left except for you. And, you know, we just didn't hear that you needed somebody. We didn't come up here and have an emergency meeting to pay prime CPA fees plus some per diem or temporary employment. We didn't hear there was any problem at all until all of a sudden we now have to ask, you know, for forgiveness. A half a year late.
So as soon as the people vacated their positions, we posted announcements to fill the positions, and filling those positions takes time. And so in the meantime, we worked additional beyond 40-hour week days.
And you shouldn't have to. That's what I'm saying. If you would have said something, caught us in the elevator and just going like, why are you still here at 9 o'clock at night? You know, and you say like, I didn't leave yet. You know, or do you have to come back for these late meetings? I haven't left my office yet. We could have, you know, we could have moved it a little priority or something. But we've called emergency meetings of the board over asphalt sinking in the Maiden Lane Library that we still haven't filled in.
And all I can say is in terms of getting it completed, we were right on the cusp of getting it done to be submitted to the LGC by the end of the day on December 1st, and it just wasn't done. There was just additional work that had to be done.
I don't think he's taking you on as that. He's just saying next time when you need help, ask for help. And help where you found the hot water.
Yeah, holes in the canoe, and you plug one, you go, all right, we almost made that month.
Yeah.
You know, another one over here. You know, even Marshall, you could have kind of flagged him going, you know how this gets this time, crunch time, you know, April 15th and other dates that really mean a lot to us. Do you know anybody that's looking for per diem or looking to retire or looking to do anything? Marshall probably knows some people that might be good with numbers. You know, he could have, you know, that's what I'm saying. If instead of just going, God, I hope the boat doesn't sink before they all find out about this. You know, we'll get you the help. We're not shy about doing that. So,
thank you. Anybody else had any questions on the audit? I would tell staff, besides that 7 days, it was excellent audit, and we thank you for Cherry Beckett for doing that, because I think as I'm sitting at the State Association of County Commissioners, they're all over the state, they're having issues with getting their audit on time, and that new statute they had is going to really mess up some local governments where they're going to have to really pay back money. Commissioner Booth, that new statute is just crazy, but And Marshall can attest to that, but thank you so much for that. But thank you, finance and staff, for being able to make sure we get a unmodified opinion, the best there is in this, so thank you so very much. And I think Ms. Evans got some more stuff for us on that. Thank you, and you don't have to stay because you charged me by the hour, so you can go ahead and go. No, thank you.
Okay, so I just have about 8 slides I'm going to go through and to report on fund balances and some of the impacts that cause the fund balances to be what they are. From fiscal year 22 to 23, the total fund balance increased by $50.2 million in the general combined fund balance. And so the general combined fund balance includes the operating fund, the capital investment fund, and the school capital outlay fund. And then the few slides after this, I'm going to be going over each of those one at a time. So the unassigned fund balance was 31.53% of fiscal year 2023 expenditures, and the ending fund balance was $330.6 million. The general operating fund balance increased by $21.9 million, even with the June transfer to the capital investment fund that totaled $21.3 million. In addition to that transfer out, and Commissioner Keefe, this goes along with what you were saying earlier, salaries and benefit costs increase as a result of retention incentives paid during the year, but those were offset by the ARP freed up capacity funds. On the revenue side, the overall ad valorem taxes, including motor vehicle, increased by $4.46 million, or 2.3% above last year, and sales tax increased by 1.77%, or 2.9% as compared, $1.77 million, or 2.9% compared to last year. And in addition, investment earnings were just above $9 million, which was a substantial increase above the $140,000 that we recorded in fiscal year 22. The school capital fund increased fund balance by $8 million, and that is a result of budgeted projects that were incomplete as of June 30th. The capital investment fund balance increased by $20.3 million up to $147.3 million. And management and staff are in the process of working with DEC, our financial advisors, to make updates to the models and present those to the commissioners during sometime in February, it looks like. So this is a snippet of the fund balance policy regarding transferring funds from the general fund to the capital investment fund. If you'll recall, during the fiscal year, we made a slight change to it. The part in parentheses about minus adjustments for the current year general fund balance. And so this is the calculation, and I'll just show you the math. I don't want to get too close to it though. So the first part is getting to the general fund expenditures. So those were $319.9 million. Then 15% of that is what we're required to retain in fund balance. So we have to keep $47.985 million in the fund balance. So the unassigned portion of fund balance is $100,863,000. So we have the 15% requirement per policy, so we can take that out, and we have the fund balance amount above the 15% of expenditures of $52.8 million. So, well, through December 1st, the budget amendments that are for reappropriations from 23 into 24, plus the ARP freed up capacity funds, total $18.277 million. And so that through this calculation, that puts us at a recommendation of transferring $34,600,564 into the capital investment fund. And so if you approve of that, that will occur through the approval of a budget ordinance amendment that I've keyed into the system, and if you approve of it, then it can be approved during Monday night's meeting.
Mr. Manager.
Commissioners, I would just like to commend Vicki and her staff for an excellent job performing the audit and maintaining the fiscal health of the organization. The budget is always the plan, and the audit is the results of the plan, and you can see the results speak for themselves. We had approximately $52 million increase in fund balance, and we're transferring approximately $35 million over. And not to belabor the point, but this was the first time that finance actually did provided or prepared the fiscal the schedule of federal and state awards, which is a very complicated schedule. Most of the time, it takes a while, and the number of programs we have and the complexity, and for them to only miss one program was a great job. So although we had the comment or a deficiency, it was only one program, and they did a great job. And like I said, the results speak for themselves.
Commissioner Booth.
I'd have loved to have cut some of that $52 million to give you some help. So that's what I was just talking, nothing in your report had the word decrease in it. Everything was, in fact, that one, the fund balance is more than double. I mean, it's not just 15%, it's 150%. I mean, it's just, the numbers are phenomenal, and,
Commissioner King.
So, to break this down, the number is actually 12 to 15%. You're working off 15%, right? Because I remember.
To keep as the minimum.
Right. Well, it's 12 to 15%.
Well, I mean, it is, you're right.
Yeah, okay. But, so, we have a lot of capital projects. Now, the 18.277, that's actually ARP money that is not yet expended.
Correct. Some of it has been assigned, but some of it has not.
Right, still being held. So
Yes.
we have to understand that
We're tracking
that's
it
in there.
separately.
And that's by design. And all right. Now, the other part is, everything over the 15% is supposed to go into the capital fund.
Correct.
Is the recommendation that everything's going to the capital fund?
Except for the 18.2.
Yeah.
Yes.
Except for the 18.2, which is ARP money.
And there's just a little over $5 million that were reappropriations from incomplete projects that are carried forward from fiscal year 23 into 24.
Yeah. And before everybody gets giddy about the numbers, we have a number of high-dollar capital projects. We're being fiscally responsible by getting it into the capital fund. So I just want people to understand that it's not a slush fund.
That's right.
There's projects that are being implemented and on a schedule, everything from water and sewer to schools to all big capital projects. So great job, but it's not like we get to write a check for it. Yeah.
Correct. You guys know the model that we have.
Yeah.
And the model projects out the projects over 30 years. We're not flooded in money.
Yeah.
We have availability to complete projects using these funds that have been allocated.
I just wanted to
there.
explain that it wasn't just we're sitting on a stack full of money and don't know what to do with it. We have plans that are
Exactly,
community plans.
yes.
And I think you said we go somewhere in January or late January is bring back the capital investment fund to be able to show all of that's in the capital investment fund that Commissioner Keefe is talking about.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Fairclough.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're talking in terms of 15% and above 15% and such as that. I remind myself that I'm 2 years behind now. Is the recommendation of the State Treasurer's Department still 8%? Has that changed?
So the information that April was going over earlier about the FPICs, the financial indicators of concern, so the State Treasurer's Office, they no longer evaluate local governments based on a percentage of a fixed percentage of fund balance, which is the 8% like they used to, which is basically 1 month of operating. Now they measure local governments against each other based on their population. And so the percentage of fund balance that we get compared to are entities like Forsyth and Guilford and counties our size. And so the percentage of counties our size is between 12 to 20%.
I understand. Okay, thank you. That's good news.
All right. Anybody else have any other questions? If not, I guess it's a motion to amend the contract
Yes.
to the audit accounts. If I can get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second and send it to the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye. Oh, well, raise your hand. I forgot this. Where I am. I was at another meeting earlier this morning. That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Manager, that takes us to request for qualifications for professional design services for our Cumberland County Public Water System.
Yes, Amanda Bader, General Manager for Natural Resources, will present this item and answer any questions you may have. As we start to evaluate and build out water systems for the county, we decided that we need request qualifications for those services, and Amanda will go over the recommendation again, answer any questions you may have.
So to date, we have awarded contracts for preliminary reports with the water districts, and we have been working on hydrogeological services for test wells. And so we also just recently accepted RFQ for professional services for design of the water lines. So we requested RFQs, received 2 responses, one from McGill Associates, one from HDR of the Carolinas. Both firms are qualified. We recommended that HDR is the best qualified firm, and we are asking that we award this RFQ to HDR.
Is it HGR or HDR?
HDR.
Okay, thank you.
And we will come back to the board with a negotiated contract at a later date.
Commissioner Booth.
Thank you, sir. Do either of the ones you interviewed have projects of our size under their belt, their experience belt, or are they up-and-coming folks, or, I mean...
I would say that HDR has been on the forefront of the PFAS issues. They have done treatability studies on wells in Greensboro. They have also been actively working with us on various models for water districts. They are also well-versed in surface water capacity as well as groundwater capacity. Our team also includes groundwater management associates who...
Other than Greensboro, anything else our size? I mean, I'm not going to hold against them if all they've done is half of Robinson County or something, but...
Oh, no, HDR works for places like the city of Miami.
Okay. Thank you.
So they're a nationwide firm, and they have offices all over the country. They work in California. They travel. They work in Virginia. I just pointed out at Greensboro because of the comparison to what we are doing now. We're actually probably one of their smaller clients. They usually don't work with rural water districts, but I think due to the complexity of what we're dealing with and due to the funding concerns, they bring just expertise, especially with the funding expertise they bring to the table, that's who we need to help us navigate through this.
Thank you. If we can get a motion to approve the professional design services with HDR.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Move it to the consent agenda. All those in favor? All right, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Amanda. Department of Social Services lease renewal for the Family Visitation Center.
Yes,
Mr.
Donnie
Manager.
Perry, Social Services Division Director, will present this item and answer any questions you may have.
We're still at the same place?
Yes,
Did it go up?
$200 a month.
If I can get a motion to approve the lease renewal for the Family Visitation Center?
Second.
So moved.
Been moved and second. All those in favor? All right. The North Carolina Cooperative Extension Memorandum of Agreement, Mr. Manager.
Yes, Lisa Childress, Director of Cooperative Extension, will present this item, but essentially the MOA is changing to allow us, if we want to stay locked in or non-locked in. Lisa will go over that, but essentially, if we stay locked in, we will have to agree with any compensation adjustments that the state brings forward to us. If we do not go locked in, we don't have to agree with those things, those compensation adjustments. But Lisa, go through it in detail.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Lisa Childers, County Extension Director, and we would like to update you on the Memorandum of Agreement. For those of you who might not be as familiar with the extension, we are part of NC State and also NC-A&T State University, and we partner in the counties. We provide educational and technical information in the areas of agriculture, food and nutrition, 4-H, and youth development, and we're in all 100 counties in North Carolina. With me today is the District Extension Director, Mr. Keith Walters. So the purpose of today is to, as Manager Greer shared, is to share a little bit more about the MOA as it is time to update it. So the MOA is just simply there to spell out the responsibilities of the university and also of the county. This is the old MOA. It was approved back in 2006. For those of y'all that remember Mr. Billy King, what a great leader, and enjoyed working with him. But all of these folks are no longer part of county government or state government, and so it is, and across the state they are updating these MOAs. So some of the changes, we're going from a MOU to a Memorandum of Agreement. The old MOU required NC-A&T signature. Now it's just a signature between NC State and the counties. And then the biggest change would be if you just sign the new MOA as it is, we become a lock-in unless you opt out of that, which would require a addendum and become a non-lock-in. That at one time was called send-in to even make it more confusing, but I'll explain that a little further. So if you are a lock-in county, counties will adhere to state increases that are approved by the General Assembly. All state adjustments will be honored. So it essentially locks you in to whatever the state says you have to do. On the non-lock-in, which is what we currently have, but we call it send-in, they changed the name of it, the county will provide increases on the county portions of salary cost share for only the county-approved increases. So whatever increase the county approves is what the employee would receive. And then extension employees are included in all adjustments. So when we talk about the lock-in or the non-lock-in, it truly is really just talking about salaries and compensation. So the way our employees are paid is based on their salary percentages. So for me, for example, County Extension Director, I receive 48.5% of my salary paid for by Cumberland County and 51.5% by NC State. So to give you an example about this, let's say if we have, for example, we have a state that approves a 2% COLA and the county approves a 3%. If we go the lock-in model, the employee would receive 2% increase on their county and state. So 2%, the county would pay their portion, and the state would pay their portion. If we go with the non-lock-in option, the employee would receive 2% on their state portion, and then the county would receive, I would receive 3% on the county portion of their salary. So the new MOA is in your packet along with the percentages and the addendum. So what is our request? Our request is to stay in our current funding partnership model, which is the non-lock-in, which would require an addendum.
So if I can get a motion to do the non-lock-in with the addendum.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you.
She has the next agenda item
Oh,
also.
is that what hers too? The Voluntary District Ordinance and Farm Advisory Board bylaws. Okay.
Okay, so back again. So changing gears just a little bit, we're going to talk about the Farm Advisory Board, or the Voluntary Ag District. Here with me today is Mr. Wayne Collier, who's a farmer and very active in our community, as well as on the Farm Advisory Board. So if you're familiar, I must be touching something. Okay. So this come from our website. This is the Farm Advisory Board. You might be familiar as you often make appointments to this board. It is a 9-person board, and it really addresses agricultural issues and concerns, land issues. It also approves the voluntary ag district applications. So the general statute 106 allows for counties to adopt this type of ordinance, and truly what they want to come out of this is to decrease the likelihood of disputes between farmers and their neighbors, and that was truly why this was implemented. And they of course also encourage counties to have a voluntary ag district board. So in Cumberland County, we currently have 44 farms enrolled, and we have about 15,000 acres. And so when a farm is approved, you can see the sign in the picture, and back in the back you can see a house back there. So what will happen is that farm will get a sign that they can put on their farm, but it's also noted in GIS, so that when potential buyers are ready to purchase a home that's close to a farm, they are told by their realtor at closing, wait a minute, you're in a voluntary ag district. And what that means is there may be loud noises, there may be strong smells, there may be lots of machinery. And so they really want the prospective buyer to be aware so that later on there are not concerns. So the reason I'm here today is that board, we needed to make some revisions which would require some approvals. One thing that was done is that we updated the administration of the board. It is no longer in the planning department. It has been moved under cooperative extension. Updated the statute as well as some logistical time and changes for the board. We decreased the number of board members. 9 was a little too much for this type of board. We did make an update to board requirements, and so I wanted to specifically highlight those. Candidates for membership must be residents of Cumberland County or must actively be farming in Cumberland County. So wanted to put that out there, as some of our farmers farm a great deal in this county but happen to live over the county line but still would like a voice if possible on the board. There are some revisions to the ordinance, very cosmetic, just updated language, some general statute changes. And I also added a renewal clause so that the farmer doesn't have to reapply, it just auto-renews. And it is voluntary, they can be removed out of the program if they so choose.
What did you decrease it to from 9 to?
It is decreased from 9 to 4. Excuse me, that's not correct, hold on. 7.
Okay. Commissioner Keith.
So, Lisa, it's the first I've heard of this board. Honestly. And I think to myself, how many zoning meetings I've been to wondering if there was a voice. Is that in their scope of work to say protecting farmland?
It is.
How come we never, how active is the group then?
Oh, they meet quarterly, and typically, again, this board has been through the planning department, and so what they are typically handed are cases with, that have applied to be in the program. So they are approving applications for farmers to participate. The other way that they have been extremely active, as Mr. Collier can share, is that we have been involved in multiple public hearings with DOT and farms where they're widening roads, and it's going to take a great deal of some agricultural land. And so so they are extremely active, yes.
But they're not, is it not in their scope to make recommendations? I heard you say it's on the planning department. I've never heard the planning department say the Farm Advisory Board has reviewed this and they believe that it's in the best interest of Cumberland County that this remain farmland or this.
They could certainly provide information and feedback and recommendations.
But is that in their scope though? Do they do that in other counties?
I think it varies. Every county you go into, it's a little bit different. The way that ours is to be a voice for agriculture and to make recommendations to Cumberland County Joint Planning Board of Commissioners regarding issues involving farmland in Cumberland County.
I mean, it seems like that when something comes to us, we hear from two people, the people that want it and the people that don't want it.
Correct.
And we don't really have, a mediator or someone who's looking out for, am I going down a bad path
No,
here?
well, I think we might want to add it to. If you look at when they bring us the zone, they have a part about the airport, whether they were contacted. They have the part with the school system, whether it was violated. They talk economic development. I think that what they should have is in there that this board was contacted and they have either no problems or have problems. I think that's where it should go. Because they have all those other people that they talk to if y'all look down there.
And I think
we never hear the impact of reducing farmland. Like, have any of these farms that have been identified, have they been sold off and into parcels and now there's a neighborhood there?
So not currently, but we are in the process of handling several of those situations where there's going to be a produce stand impacted that is very popular in our county. And so what we try to do is when I say we, I try to go out and meet with the farm and whoever the issue with, who's taking the land. We try to work it out and say, okay, well, what if we take this side of the road, or what if we move this over here? We do everything we can to try to salvage as much farmland as we can for that farm.
Commissioner Council. Oh, I thought you.
No, I had a question, but it wasn't a question.
Yours was a motion. You got a question or anything?
I don't have a question, Mr. Chairman, but apropos of this conversation, I would announce that this week I was appointed to a NACO committee, the Rural Action Caucus, and since we're kind of talking about agriculture here, I've been looking at a way to get involved with the National Association of Counties, and this seemed very appropriate to us. So I will be finding out more about what that caucus is doing. I did attend a meeting in West Virginia last month, and that's when I kind of got my feet wet a little bit. But I would ask Wayne and Lisa and others who think that there's an issue, if there's an issue in Cumberland County or any of the related counties around us that we can take to the national level. They are fierce advocates for anything that is county, and there are many, many rural counties, obviously, in the United States. There are only about, there may be four commissioners in the state of North Carolina may be on that committee as far as I know. So I'll be finding out more about that and looking for ways that we can be of service to the farms.
And I think Commissioner Council was making a motion to approve the changes to the bylaws to the County Voluntary Agriculture District Ordinance Farm Advisory Board, taking into Mr. Keith's part of adding that, I think Sally and the attorney, that on the planning board, that they be included in terms of being discussed and for it to come back to the county commissioners. So if we can get a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you, Monsieur. Any other items, Mr. Manager?
We had the financial reports, the health insurance update, and the project updates. And then
We got those in, those were sent to us, and so everybody had an opportunity to review those. I don't think there's any questions on those. Do we have a closed session?
Yes, we have a real property acquisition pursuant to NCGS 143-318-11-A-5, then also some information regarding personnel we need to discuss.
If we can get a motion to go into closed session for that real property acquisition, 143-318-11A5 and personnel.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor? All right, that'll give us in closed session. We're back in open session, and Vice Chair ready to hit that thing. If I can get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I thought you wanted to go home.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor? Y'all stay if you want to. Meeting adjourned.